Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to our second day, our part two, our episode two of our Being Human First series. We have two lovely faces joining me, one that you're familiar with, one that's brand spanking new to this conversation. And we are really excited for today's conversation. I'm talking a little bit slower right now because we have people trickling in, but we're going to dive in and bring the energy up and really help you all be human first. So we'll talk a little bit about what this session means and what our intention is, what else we have going on during the series, and then I will introduce our beautiful guests. So welcome. You've officially made it to our Being Human First, episode two. And this call is all about your needs first and thriving through self-care. So, with all of that, this is a conversation that was birthed really from a lot of our foundations in life guides. For those of you who are on this webinar now and are joining us, seeing our faces here right now, that means that the organization that you work with has partnered with life guides to offer you access to our platform and what we do. Some of you might know exactly what we do, some of you might be brand new, but essentially we offer peer-to-peer mentorship and coaching for all areas of life. So one of the things that we've seen in the traditional marketplace is that mentoring and coaching typically comes from a business standpoint or a professional standpoint. And Life Guides helps you navigate and get coaching and mentorship in all areas of life, whether you just move to a new area or you're working on your finances or you're a workaholic and you don't know how to chill out. The list goes on and on and on. So the last one, the workaholic and maybe not knowing how to chill out, will be very relatable to today's conversation. But Life Guides is something that you have access to for free through your employer. And all you do is you go to app.lifeguides.com. We have like 500 different categories. We have it subcategorized so it doesn't feel overwhelming. But you get to choose the categories that you're wanting to grow in, and then you select those, and you get a bunch of beautiful faces of beautiful people who can help you. And you get to schedule a call with them, and they get to be your accountability partner. Sometimes they're just the person that you vent to. Sometimes they're the person that you're spitballing ideas on where you want to go in life. The possibilities are endless. You really get to choose and curate this experience for yourself with your guide. So, with all of that being said, this Being Human First series was birthed from our foundations of life guides and what we do because we are an organization that is available to you that your company has purchased for us to be able to be like, hey, we're here to support you. So that means that we're here to help you with your well being, your mental fitness, your overall satisfaction in life. And as much as we would love to help you be the best manager or the best employee ever, the way that we're going to help you do that is by helping you see the ways that you can be a better human overall, the way that you can focus on your own well being, the way that you can take time for yourself, set some boundaries, and realize that you're not this machine who can do everything all at once. You're a human doing your best, and there aren't enough people having those conversations, but we are seeing the statistics get higher and higher for burnout and stress and all these emotional and mental related issues that if we were able to be having more of these conversations day in and day out, we would see a lot less of that stress. So, the way that Being Human First works is it's technically a three-part series for our live webinars like this. And then we have live mentorship the weeks following. So, next week, Wednesday, this exact time, it'll be me and Raquel in a room with you, helping you and actually coaching you and setting up a plan for your self-care and teaching you the foundations for that. You can ask more questions, it's a lot more interactive. So I'm going to send the link for you to be able to register for that should you feel inspired to. And the reason for that is we wanted to give you real life experiences with our guides before you even get on the call, before you even touch the platform. And our hope is even by the end of the 60-minute session, you walk away and you feel better than when you arrived, because that's what we're here for, right? The overhaul in the shifts in our life don't need to be these big, huge things. We can do small things that lead to great results in our lives, and showing up on a webinar like this will help you do that. So let's see here. And this is a little bit different, right? Where I know that it's Valentine's week. People are like, if you're not in a relationship, take care of yourself and date yourself and practice your self-care and do your face mask and buy yourself flowers and take a bath. And as much as those are really helpful, we're looking at more of the sustainable long-term ways that you can build self-care in and a lot of the ways that aren't being talked about in normal society, right? So this will be a little bit deeper than that. This is the internal work. These are the internal foundations. And before we give the stage to Dr. Dave and Raquel to support me in this conversation, I actually have a survey that that I'm going to launch on the screen right now. So you're going to see the survey. It should have just popped up on your screen. And there are 3 questions. We're going to do the survey now, and we're also going to do this survey at the end to help get a gauge for how we can create transformation in such a short period of time. Some of the questions might stay exactly the same. Some of them might evolve. But the top question for gauging the beginning and the end is imagine on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 feeling super calm and 10 feeling super stressed, what number would you give to how you're feeling right now in this moment? And this will help us get an understanding for where we're at right now. And some of you might be really stressed, and that's okay. We want to know. We all know what stress feels like, trust me. The second question is what number would you give to how commonly you feel at work? This is just a great statistic overall for us to understand as we continue to develop our programming and as we continue looking at our guides and saying, hey, these are what our people need support with. And then also, what number would you give to how you commonly feel in your home and personal life? I feel like the Being Human First series was also birthed of the idea that work is placed as top priority in our lives. And there are a lot of our other areas of lives that are really important. So we'll talk about that as we continue on. About 70% of you have provided your answers. So I'll give about 10 more seconds. You guys are rapidly filling this out. I love it.
All right, like we see that participation.
Right? We got 89% right now. Look at this. Some people are probably like really checking in with themselves and they're like, how do I
Yeah.
actually feel right
What is it?
now?
What am I feeling right now? What do I say? I wanted to vote, but it didn't allow me to. So maybe next time.
Me too.
We can, you guys can put your answers in the chat if you want. But I'm going to end the poll now. That was more than 10 seconds. We have 93% participation, 95% participation. You all are amazing. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Ending the poll here. I'm going to share the results on the screen for a moment so you can all see. And so we have 2% are at a 10 for stress, 5% are at a 9 for stress. 8% of you are at a 9 or at an 8 for stress. So there's a lot of us are really in between like 5 to 10, most of us for stress currently.
Mhm.
At work, that's really nice. We're kind of in the middle between 4 to 8. And then at home, we're looking a little bit more like 5 to 9 for stress levels. And obviously the answers are everywhere and all in between. But we're going to help you hopefully dwindle down that stress a little bit. So I'm going to stop sharing those results. Hopefully they're so wildly profound for you and exciting and everything. And I'm going to close it out. Okay, cool. So without further ado, we have our very own Dr. Dave. He is the VP of our guides community. He helps develop our guides in general. He also is a neuroscientist. He is so smart, has done so
Yeah.
much of his own work in a way that's really tangible and easy to understand. And I feel like he's a great person to be having this conversation. So, Dr. Dave, what does being human first mean to you in regards to self care and putting your needs first? And then, before you ever prioritize self care, what were some of the things that you were struggling with, or what did your life look like?
It's an ever-growing question, but what being human first to me, what I've learned throughout, research and experimentation on myself and sometimes on others with consent, I make sure to be ethical, is that being human first starts with understanding that we're a part of a growth cycle. And that's kind of our goal in life is to grow, learn, grow, get better. And for self care, I had to rebrand self care because, like you said, facials and doing all the things that we do for ourselves really didn't fit. For me, self care really meant what are the things that I can control. I know my background might be a little cut off, but that's what it says on the top. What's inside your control, what's outside your control. And so, what it meant for me was putting not necessarily the needs of others first, but putting the needs of myself in perspective. Because sometimes my needs may not need to be first in a certain context, but in most cases, yes, I may need to take care of myself first. It's the mask analogy. If you're ever flown on an airplane, they tell you put your mask on so you can support somebody else. That's the closest analogy that I can think of being human first. It means to take care of yourself first, to make sure your readiness is at a place where you can support, so that you're not, out here running the tires to the rims and blowing yourself out. So before I prioritize myself, I mean, you see, I have a few grays and I don't dye them on purpose because I have friends who didn't get to see their grays. So I like to rock them. But much of this comes from the stress before I started to take care of myself. And that included, 18-hour days, sleeping sometimes 4 hours, not eating the right foods, what I was putting into my body, the content I was consuming. World Star, anybody? I know I'm old for some of you, millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha who may be watching this in the future. But there's this thing called World Star. It was consuming people's lives. So, but what I learned from that was checking my algorithms and prioritizing what I'm giving my attention to. That's what my life looked like before I got into self care.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I don't even know what World Star is, so but
Don't look it up. Do
I
not. Like,
don't look it up. Can we have like a 10-second like little description of what World Star is? Was it like a website?
so, all right. So, what it is now is social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, during the Instagram's start, maybe around 2012, WorldStar was a collective of viral videos that typically are associated with shenanigans. And I'll just say that. And I mean shenanigans on every. Yeah, I saw somebody Antoinette put in, but worse. Yes, like TMZ, but worse. And because of how early social media, what was coming on in the 2010s, people didn't know about their attention and the drama. Yeah, wow, talk about synchronicity. Casey just put in drama into the chat. So yeah, the drama was there, and so the way the systems were set up, it's designed for you to keep scrolling, keep looking. So I know that's longer than you asked, but everyone in the chat was kind of posting about it. So I think I wanted to just add a little bit of extra context to it.
No, that's perfect. We needed that. That was a crucial moment in this webinar. I love it. Well, we also have our very own beautiful, wonderful Raquel here with us, and she has a really cool story. She is from Brazil. She had different degrees, different levels of accolades, a really budding career before she came to America and had to start all over as a janitor because she didn't speak the language and had to rebuild herself from the ground up. So she has a lot of different experience that she can share with you, a lot of ways that she can support you on your journey, but also the same questions for you, Raquel. What does being human first mean to you in regards to self-care and putting your own needs first? And then what did your life look like before that?
Well, I'm so excited to share a little bit about my life and interact with you all. First of all, being a human first for me, it's like it's I am a person. Okay, so I am a person with emotions. I have limits, and I need attention for myself. So when I think about human first, I'm thinking about, yeah, I'm a person. I'm not just a machine, as you mentioned that. And it's interesting because when I close my eyes and think about what I need to do, because just bullet points. I work for 40 plus hours. I lead a group. I am a wife. I am a mother of a college student. I am a mother of autistic nonverbal girl that needs a lot of attention, a lot of therapies. I am a PhD student. So I hope graduate this year, and I am a life guide. I am a friend. I am a daughter. I have friends that call me and I said, I need you, so I'm here. I'm a Christian. I serve in my church, so I cook every other day. And when you ask me, many people ask me, and I said, Raquel, how do you have time for yourself? So the problem is, before, this is the question, right? Before, I was like a machine. I didn't stop and think about myself. I just push myself, giving all the time, and always put like everyone first. Always I think about we need to serve others all the time. And I I always saw myself as a strong woman, and I could do it that. So before, what's happened is I had a burnout, and I end up to go to the doctor, and he said, you need to take care of yourself. When I heard that, and I said, how I can do it that. So I need to learn how to take care of myself first, to serve better others. So this is at the um, like always I try to encourage people to say, hey, you need to have a time for yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm curious, drop 111 in the chat if you can relate to that feeling of burnout in your life, where you're doing so much. It feels like the hamster wheel never ends. You like it almost kind of feels like life continues on around you, but like you just can't get a handle on anything. And we did a motivational Monday on the actual science of burnout. If you go to our YouTube, you can watch that. There were a lot of people who, when they were on that session, they were, when you go through burnout, you have a much thinner threshold, and your emotional expression in regards to like what riles you up is so much bigger because you just don't have the emotional capacity for things anymore. And a lot of people were like, wow, so it's not me. I'm not the problem. I thought that I changed, but I just went through burnout and my brain went through these psychological changes, and now I need to prioritize myself. So, this one of the things, and you all hear me say this basically every event that I ever do, setting boundaries and knowing your capacity is going to be one of the greatest ways that you prioritize your self-care. And again, this is deeper than the bubble baths and the face masks, even though I love all of it. But knowing your capacity is so huge. I wanted to share a TikTok video with you all. I can't because the sound wasn't working and I didn't have enough time to test it. But it was this guy saying he has from 10 to 4 every day. And he has to do home things and business things as well. And he puts in all the things that he wants to do into ChatGPT. And he asked ChatGPT to write out a schedule for him. And ChatGPT told him, you are bonkers if you think that you can get all of this done. It is not humanly possible. You can do this, or you could do this, or these are a couple of different iterations of what your day could look like. But there is no way that you could ever accomplish all of that. And I feel like that's a huge human problem that we come against, is that we think that we are superhuman and we think that we can do everything, and we don't actually know our capacity. So what happens with that is we are naturally setting ourselves up for failure. We are building ourselves into a system where at the end of the day, we will already fail because we didn't look at our day realistically and we didn't look at our capacity realistically. So there's a level of self-responsibility that comes with self-care. You can't take care of yourself if you don't choose to be responsible for yourself. And I teach people, take your top 3 things for the day. Just the top 3. Or that whole huge list that you have. Sometimes what I'll do on Sundays is I will write down everything that I have to get done that week that I think that I want to do on Monday, which is like 17 and a half things on top of taking care of my dogs and myself and showering and going to the gym. And then I break it up into 3. I just give each day 3 things. And usually it follows throughout the entire week, and I can get those 3 things done, but I've actually seen what I need to do and what my capacity is. But also another thing, and I've mentioned this in other webinars as well, is women, our energy and productivity levels change based on where we are in our hormonal cycle. When we're ovulating or in the beginning phases of our cycle, we have a lot more energy and we're a lot more productive. But if we are on our bleeds or in our luteal cycles, our body is literally needing a lot more rest, a lot more sleep, and a lot more slowness. So realizing that men's hormone cycles tend to operate in a 24-hour cycle. There's a little bit more fluctuation with that as well that we're seeing in the science, but in the actual science of the ways that women work, it's not the same every week. And we can't operate thinking that what it looked like 2 weeks ago is going to be the same as what it looked like now, or what it looked like before we had children is what it's going to look like now. So when it comes to setting the boundaries on top of that, your boundaries don't need, I feel like, actually, before I even say what I'm about to say, I want you to put a word in the chat for what you feel when someone is talking about boundaries. Because there are a couple of things. Some of you could feel empowered. Some of you could feel like you're being a warden, or you are like you have to say something really hard and really challenging, or some of you might not feel anything at all when it comes to boundaries. But I'm curious because I know a little bit of the common ways that our brains work. Safety. Ooh, I love it. Restrictive, expectations, needed, defensive. Yeah. Myth. Ooh,
Ooh.
difficult. Look at all of these words. Um, Confident, situational, necessary, protection, boundaries. Someone goes, boundaries?
This is why I love it that.
Right? Oh my gosh. So here's the thing, y'all. I think this is the first time I've ever said y'all. I've been living in North Carolina for 8 years. It finally took me over.
It'll
Y'all.
it'll get to you. It'll
It
get to you.
happened. So here's the thing. If you know your capacity, if you know what you need for self-care, your boundaries don't have to be defensive and they don't have to be reactionary. If you know your boundaries, you can communicate to people, hey, I'm about to have a really busy week. I will not have the capacity for extra things, and I would love to talk about it next week. Or as a woman, if you know that your time of month is coming and your first couple of days are really hard, I would communicate to my boss once a month and be like, hey, there's a chance that the first couple of days of next week, I will not be at my full capacity and I'll give you my best. Or if you notice that you are running on really low sleep, you have a newborn baby, they're up all night, you're struggling, let people know, hey, and it involves vulnerability and being real with yourself about where you're at. But your boundaries don't have to come in when you're ready at your threshold. Your boundaries should come in, and you should have that awareness of what your threshold is and communicate before you hit that threshold. These are things that you can have a guide help you start having conversations with. I literally use a guide sometimes. I'm like, I need to have a conversation with someone, and I need your help articulating it in a way that doesn't make me sound like a crazy lunatic. And they help me navigate the conversation in a way that doesn't make me sound like a crazy lunatic. And it's great. So that's a little
So good
bit
stuff.
about setting boundaries and knowing capacity. But Dr. Dave, I think you have some wisdom for us as well in regards to self-care.
I don't, but I like to give credit to the people who did do the work. So I'll put I'm gonna give credit to Dr. Last name is Dr. Tawa. I'll put her link in the chat in just a moment. But she breaks down the different levels of boundaries, including rigid boundaries. So some of your responses were what people feel when someone has a rigid boundary, where it's like it's tough or it's really, personal to them and they're not consistent. One challenge about boundaries is you have to be consistent. Most people think that you can just yell, I need boundaries. And that means that someone should understand exactly what you mean by that. That's not the case. You need to build it in, but then you need to also continue to reinforce those boundaries. And sometimes you need to remind them, hey, this is a boundary for me. And one thing that you mentioned that is not talked about enough, but I appreciate you bringing it up, is women have that power. I think we talked about this with Genesis, one of our guides, a couple of sessions ago, about the power that women have when they understand where their cycle is. But more importantly, when their leadership, managers, people they work with are also supportive of it, and it's not a issue if someone has to go, take care of their family, or hey, just like you said, I may need this next week may be a little rougher for me, so I want to let you know ahead of time. That level of communication helps build in boundaries, so then people can feel supported and feel like, oh, they can get this done. And I'm going to put this in here, and I say this with a real kind of a sly smile on my face. It's a YouTube video on how to deal with um, narcissists. And sometimes, follow me, this might get a little out of whack. We are the narcissists, meaning like it's what we tell ourselves, our inner critic, the self talk that we have can really be not only negative but destructive. So I encourage people to watch this video. It's a funny concept about when dealing with someone who's pushing your boundaries rather than reacting immediately, taking a moment. You can sing happy birthday in your head. Um, for me, I use the Stevie Wonder happy birthday song, but you can use the normal happy. I'm not going to sing it because we don't have license for it, but you can use whichever one to give you a moment to pause as you're helping yourself create positive boundaries. So again, wisdom that someone else has done. I'm just here to share it.
Amazing. I love that. Singing happy birthday, y'all. There's a lot to take from that as well. I'm so happy we're having a boundary conversation. Raquel, you and I talked a little bit before the conversation about some ways that you found tools that helped you navigate your own self-care, and I would love it if you could share those with us.
Okay, so after I went to the doctor in Brazil and he said you need to slow down, and for me it's like a slow down, it's like it's a huge award. And I decided and I said okay, it was doing well until I moved to United States and I need to start over. So I need to learn English because I came, no English at all. So I need to learn English. I decide to go back to school again because I had, something in Brazil. And I said, well, I need, to have like a degree here. So, and the slowdown was not a slowdown. It was, like try to do like more and more. And I need to have like family, a good job. So because of that, I start to be so stressed. And I said, I need to find a way to vent. So what's happened is my first I don't say advice, but I can share a little bit my experience. So the first one is find a friend, find somebody that you can vent, because what's happening is sometimes we have a lot of things in your mind and you don't want to share with a family member, not because they don't deserve, or sometimes you don't want to share or be vulnerable or something like that, but it's important you have somebody. And this is why I love life guides. Why? Because I can share something from my life, from the moment that I'm dealing with, and something that is not, I'm not feeling well, and I can talk to somebody that just I can vent, just have a conversation, say, hey, this is my day. I am like blah blah blah, and I talk about everything, and I feel so like light. Looks like that I don't have this heavy on me anymore. So, and this person is not like a family member that say, well, maybe you need to do this, or maybe you need to take care of that, because they know me, right? As a family, they know me. But somebody that's like outside, it's great. So I have a personal friend, okay, my best friend, that I call her and I said, hey, when you have like time, please call me and I need to vent. I need to talk. So find somebody that you can trust and just talk. You will notice the biggest difference in your life. So if you don't have anybody now, try to find somebody on our website and just talk, just say something, because it's No judgment. Okay, no judgment. We just listen to you and we'll be like for you, there for you. So, first, it's like find somebody, okay? Second is take care, okay, about yourself. Like try to do something that you like, okay? So, um for me, I always had excuses, right? Like I don't have time. I need to study. I need to cook. I need to take care of my kid. I need to do this. I need to clean that. Always I put the excuses. But the thing is, when you put our priorities first, we will find a way to do it. So I found something interesting that I like it. Probably each of you, it's like different, okay? But when I was young, I always loved when my friends, just touch my head and just, doing this. And this action was so relaxed to me. I was talking to a hairdresser one time, and I asked her, and I said, "Hey, if I come once a week, can you wash my hair and make a massage?" And she said, "Oh, of course, Raquel." And I said, "I can, make a deal with you because you will come like every week." And I said, "Great. I love the word deal, right?" So, and she said, "You come every day and I can say like open like that, $20 to wash your hair and make a massage is the best $20 that I give every week for an hour. I can tell you, is it's my time that I go there. She talks about her stories, her clients, and everything, and she just wash my hair, and it's so good. After that, I can just like I'm superwoman. I can go back to work. I can do it's unbelievable. So I can tell you, do something that you really like it. So choose one thing. It's not a million things because sometimes, oh, I like this, I like this. No, sometimes it's just watch a movie. Like, okay, once a week I will watch a different movie, or just call somebody and I said, "Hey, can you walk with me 30 minutes with with my dog?" Or anything that you think about that will relax. So this show is just two of many things that I try to do it, but it's something that I would love to share with you.
Thanks for sharing that. I wanted to add something else to that is uh, restorative practices. We're going to talk a little bit more about actual practices that you can do in just a moment, but restorative practices that you do that you like that make you, when you're done, feel better. Sometimes that may be a light stretch. Before going into a meeting, it may be a core blast, which core blast could be, a couple of crunches, sit ups, oblique works, or anything like that, but just those small things that can help put you into a restorative state where your body feels more energized and you're ready to go. That's really what the cycle is. That's why we sleep. We sleep because we need to restore. Most people think that we learn when we're interacting, or like in this moment right now, you're listening to me, you're listening to Raquel, you're listening, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm learning. That's not true. You learn when you sleep. It's a cycle. You learn because you during REM sleep. That's when the memory is actually encoded, uh, or at least pushed through to long term memory. What you're learning right now is in short term memory. Okay, let me get off the neuroscience soapbox. Back to you, Kira. Forgive me. I almost went into a tangent there.
Oh my gosh, I love the neurosurgeon or neuroscience tangents. For those of you who don't know, I will one day be going to school for psychology and neuroscience because the way the brain works is so fascinating. And I feel like we over personalize a lot of things that are just, we operate outside of the way that the brain normally works. And if we learn how the brain actually works, then we can show up better, which that is to say, that I know that Dr. Dave went and spoke and like worked with a sleep specialist, and then he shared some things on a couple of calls we had personally, and then on some webinars that we did together. And I've been prioritizing sleep more than ever. And even right before this webinar, I took a nap at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and
Okay.
I was like, I have some work to do. And I was like, I'm going to be staring at my screen like a dead zombie if I don't take a nap, and it's good for me. And someone asked me, it was funny, someone randomly, they didn't know what I was doing today. They had no idea that this conversation was happening. They were like, "What's your favorite way for self-care?" And I was like, right now, the one that I'm prioritizing most is sleep because women women are different than men. Women need more sleep than men. Women need about 9 to 10 hours of sleep every night. And that's scientifically proven. When we're on our cycles, when we're actually bleeding, we need more sleep. If we get woken up in the middle of the night, it disrupts our hormone cycle and it takes us 4 to 5 days to even recoup. So there's so many things, but I think this is such a good topic. And Dr. Dave, if you have more to say on it, I feel like I would love to hear it. And I think they would too. But we live in a society that prioritizes productivity so much that we have deeply demonized sleep. And people, I used to think that getting 4 hours of sleep, like I was so proud that I was getting 4 hours of sleep.
Right?
And now I'm like, okay, I need 9. So is there any tips or any science or anything that you feel would be helpful for our listeners?
So I'm going to instead go to the opposite direction and just talk anecdotally because really it's individual. One thing about science that I really want people to understand is it's more of a guideline. It's not a rule because typically we have an issue within science where the people who are subjects are college students or from developed
Mm,
areas. So it doesn't really translate across. So some of the anecdotal data, yes, it's not a double blind placebo study, so it's not gold standard. Yet there are kernels of truth. So when I say go in the opposite direction, I'm talking about my own experience. I had to learn how to prioritize myself over my work, and prioritize. Okay, what am I going to give my attention to today? What am I going to give my energy to today? Mark Christensen, one of the uh, senior leadership here at Life Guides, told me one day, Dave, emotion is energy in motion. And I was like, that's poppycock. But then I thought about it and I was like, okay, maybe. So I learned that okay, we have these emotional centers. And my whole life, I was really giving my emotion or letting my emotion run wild. If there was something that pricked me or bothered me, there was a reaction. And I had to learn to take the stress off of work and that understanding that I'm more than just my job. You're more than your title. I'm more than just affectionately known as Dr. Dave. I am also a husband, a human. I'm a person. I like to say this. I'm an irrational human being learning to be rational. Like there's inner work that we all have to do on ourselves, and one piece of work that we did, if you don't mind me jumping for a moment, Kira, I want to kind of show a quick explanation of the physiological side, which I learned from Dr. Huberman out in the Huberman lab in Stanford. Wonderful tool, really easy to use. It's a little more, it's less edgy than like breath work, meaning edgy, meaning like it's not woo. Oh no, I have to meditate. It's very simple. You breathe in, until you basically can't take in anymore. And then you do a sharp inhale when you're at your top, and then you exhale longer than you inhale. Doing that 2 times. So again, I'll run it by you again. You just go just one or two of those really quick. It's so helpful for putting your body in a restorative state because you're hijacking the parasympathetic nervous system. You're kind of telling yourself, hey, we're cool, we're safe, we're about to walk into some, maybe a crazy meeting, but we're going to be okay. And so that's why I wanted to go back to personalizing yourself over your work is important, and understanding what works for you, what doesn't. Just because meditation may work for everybody doesn't mean it may work for you. And that doesn't make you a failure or less than or less likely to be in a relaxed or exalted state of being. It just means that doesn't work for you. We're all different, yet we're all the same. I know, contradicting, but that's how coins work. You have one side, and then you have another side. They're contradicting, but they're all on the same thing. Um, okay, one last thing, because I know I'm on a tangent, is I wanted to talk about some of the silly things that I do. One of the silly things I do, I live here in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, so we have a term called the moon's out, or excuse me, the moon was out yesterday. The mountain's out. I'm I'm really in tune with with random things. But when we say the mountain's out, it just means you can see the mountain, but the mountain's always there. And one thing I've learned living here is kind of to compare at times the mountain comparison, which is the mountain stressed? The mountain's been there for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. It's seen people come, go, it's seen destruction, it's seen growth, it's seen pandemic, everything. It's not stressed at all. I get it. The mountain is an inanimate object, so to speak, but it is a living part of the earth. And when you can look at the mountain and see that it's still there, despite all the challenges, all the rain, all the snow, all the earthquakes, the eruptions, which happens, it's still there. It's helpful for me to see and compare that, hey, if the mountain can be there and not fall into a depression, I can get over not getting my latte made the way I want to. just just the small things to help with that, with being human first.
Perspective. It really is. That mountain's always there, whether or not you can see it, it's always there. And, life always goes on, and things are a lot less serious than we like to imagine them to be. And maybe one of the things that we do take more seriously is the way that we take care of ourselves because, like in a work setting, people companies go through layoffs, people lose their jobs. Some companies are fruitful, some are not. You never know. But if you place your whole entire value and uh just all of your energy in one place that is outside of you, then you're forgetting the one thing that you have. You came with this body, you're leaving with this body. I mean, you're going to leave the body at some point, but who knows? But at the end of the day, like this is the one thing that you have forever is you. And it's really important to prioritize yourself. Now, we have some questions and some comments in the chat that'll steer the direction of this conversation a little bit. But Dr. Dave, you may have more like actual tangible answers for this. I have some answers just as like a human living, but you may have more actual insight. Zachary says, I'm epileptic, so I'm supposed to get 8 hours of sleep a night. Any tips for when you wake up in the middle of the night and cannot go back to sleep?
Yes, and this is again personal experience. I experienced insomnia, and one of the funniest things that I do is we just talked about the physiological side. I do a kind of a modified version of that where I breathe in for anywhere between 4 to 8 seconds, but I always breathe out double the amount of time that I breathed in. So if it's 4 seconds, then I'll breathe out 8 seconds. If it's eight, then I'll breathe out 16. And just doing that 2 to 3 times within 5 to 7 minutes for myself, again, individual, I start to feel just a little bit relaxed. And I call it riding the wave. Once I feel a little relaxed, I do that breathing exercise one more time and then allow myself to relax a little bit more. Second thing is, I always talk about this because, may God rest his soul, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu talked about a practice that he did whenever he was experiencing insomnia. He would do a loving kindness or vipassana meditations of sorts. But the way he would do it was he would just sit in his bed and he would say, if there's anybody else in the world who can't sleep like me, I hope you can get some sleep. If there's anybody else in the world who is maybe like on my same street and you're up and it's the middle of the night, I hope you can get some sleep. Just that little bit of getting out of your head, because what happens sometimes is we get that highlight reel. We got to do this in the morning. We got to do that when we get up. Oh, this is coming down the line in 2 weeks. We got to be prepared for it. And sometimes stopping that. Another thing I'll sprinkle in is the cancel method. Just being able, when those unnecessary thoughts that you don't need at the moment are coming in, canceling them. Just like canceling your subscription to TMZ or WorldStar. All right, no more mentions of that, I promise. But it's just a slight callback. But yeah, so those are two recommendations that I like to go to. But it really depends on, there's so many other factors, including vitamins. Is your magnesium at a good level? Are you using other supplements like L-theanine? Are you getting vitamin D and exercise? There's so many pieces of the puzzle. And so what I always encourage people to do is experiment. You are all scientists. Every day you get up and you make an experiment. You know what? I'm not going to have coffee today. Let's see how the day goes. That's an experiment, especially if you have a control where you use coffee on another day. But hopefully that helps.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I love that. We are the experiment, and there's not a one size fits all for any of us. Melissa has a rare blood disorder. I don't have a rare blood disorder. I'm pretty chill. So, but with that, there are a lot of factors that you can start to change. There's a lot of research you can look into. We have guides who actually help with a lot of health and wellness things. So they might not know exactly what you're going through, but they can offer suggestions that just overall, as the way that the human body works as a default, might help you in general. And a couple of things that I'll say that we didn't touch on. I don't sleep with my phone next to my bed at all. My phone is in my bathroom on airplane mode. So if I do wake up in the middle of the night, I have nothing to grab other than a book or a notepad. So a couple of things. Blue light turn like you have a circadian rhythm. Before we had before we had the homes and the lights and the computers, our bodies operated naturally by the cycles of the sun and the moon. So we would wake up with the sun, we would go to bed with the sun, somewhere along that. So that's our body's natural cycle, but the blue rays in our phones and our computers actually stop that natural cycle. And drop 333 in the chat if you've spent like 2 to 4 hours extra watching a movie or scrolling on social media while you were dead exhausted the 2 to 4 hours prior. The reason why that happens is because it's sending different triggers into your brain. So I would say do not go to your phone, do not go to your laptop, do not go to a TV if you're waking up in the middle of the night. If you have thoughts, write down those thoughts. Or if you just can't sleep, maybe read a book. But one of the things that I would highly suggest not doing is having your device near you, because your brain will just start thinking about things, and that's the opposite of what you want to do. So, and there's a lot more
For sure.
that we
Can I
have to.
add one thing real quick?
Yeah,
Because
please.
okay, you mentioned watching TV. There are studies that show that if you're watching dramas, that stress is contagious, even on TV. Because we don't know. Sometimes our brain doesn't know the difference of what's happening to us versus what's happening to them. And what happens there is you get a flush of cortisol, which that's the hormone that you need if we need to, get up, get either ready to fight or run or freeze, depending on what we're going to do. And like you're saying, if you have that at night and you're going to the TV or you're going to your phone, which most people do, no judgment. It happens. It's just about understanding how is that cycle working for you. So I just wanted to add that to you.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's all real. There's so much science. You're talking to two very science-based people here. But Raquel, I know you and I know you have some reflective questions. And I think this is a great point for you to kind of bring it home for us and bringing people back into their body, into their experience. And then we will have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. So if there are any lingering questions, we can support you with that as well. But Raquel, we would love to hear from you.
Okay, so I think the first one that I would love to ask you is, are you happy with your priorities today? This is my first question for you. It's like, are you happy? Because I wasn't happy, and I had the ideal of priorities, but I never stopped to work on to get these ideal priorities. So first of all, I want to hear from you if are you happy with, you say yes or no with your priorities today. I have one yes. Oh, this is great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Somebody just say that personal life, yes, but work priorities less. So, yes. So, yeah, it still needs work. So mine was no, because I put everything else first place and myself was in the maybe I even do not think about that I put myself in any priority over there. Usually I put everything else on the top, and myself was just because I thought that I was a strong woman. So the second, if you are, okay, wonderful. But if you're not, okay, do you think, or even you say yes, do you think that if you change something just a little bit will would be like better? And if you say no, um, how are you working to change your priorities? Because first of all, it's identify your priorities. This that I started like, what my priorities? I can tell you my priorities wasn't me at all. So when I change and put myself, I start to work on, and I start to feel much better and realize that I can help others after that, like much easier, because everything I put just on my plate, right? So I mentioned before, I have a special need girl that she needs therapy. So I always thinking about and worry about her future. Um, Sometimes like sad about the past, how do you know happen, and I didn't live right now, the present. So when I start to change, and I said, Raquel, I cannot change the past, and I cannot worry too much about the future because the future do not belong to me. So this is why I put like live more because you need to live the present. So when I start to live the present and put my schedule and say, okay, now I need to prioritize this part of me. I need to fill my cup. And now I can help better my daughter with the therapies, my work, my co-workers. So I lead people here, and they look at me every day and see how I am, conduct them. I lead like students do. So if I'm not feeling well, how I can do something better for them? How can I do something better for my family? So I start to prioritize myself. I put like God first, second Raquel, and after that I start to know to work on. I work with my daughter, work with my co-workers, with the students, and I could see like that my life start to be like easier. But this is not one day and I decide the next day. This is something that you need to work on. But thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you. What an insightful conversation. I feel like there has been a lot for you all to think about and dabble in. Melissa asked a really great question. We have two lingering questions that came through the chat. Do your work priorities match what your manager expects? Or are you making things a higher priority than they need to be, causing too many high priorities? Some of you don't even know what your managers expect, and some of you have higher expectations of yourself than your managers even do. And these are important conversations to have of I go to my bosses and I'm like, "Yo, there's a lot on my plate. What's the top priority?" Or I'm like, hey, we're expanding my role currently. What does that look like? What will I realistically have time for? My time, the amount of time that I have doesn't change. And the amount of energy that I have to give to my job doesn't change because my life is pretty full. I've got four main priorities every day: learn Spanish, work out, work, and eat. That's it. My life is pretty simple right now because oh yeah, learn Spanish. That's like my number one goal right now. So, with that, my energy doesn't change, which means that if more things are getting put on me, or if I'm taking on more responsibility, then conversations need to be had and things need to be shifted as well. So, also, one question that came through was if there is a coffee or tea that works during the time of month that gives women energy. I would maybe suggest looking. I don't drink coffee. I haven't drank coffee for 6 years. I realized that if I was tired, I should probably sleep. So that might be the advice that I would give to you is if you're tired, maybe try sleeping, especially if nothing else is working. I do also use the Neuromints. You can find them on Amazon. I found them on TikTok first, but they've got L-theanine and magnesium and other things in them that are really great for you, and those boost my energy like instantly. So I would suggest those. I can type those in the chat for you. Neuromints. Um, but before I like really wind us down, Dr. Dave or Raquel, are there any final things that you would like to say before I close us out?
Okay, one quick thing might be controversial, but always remember that you are valuable to your job. However, if you leave your job, there's someone else who can do what you're doing, but no one else can be who you are.
Mm.
So be, if that makes sense. Just try to prioritize yourself. Don't fall into the trap of you know, doing too much and giving yourself to exhaustion or even worse, um, just for you to not be here the next day.
Yeah, as I said, I lead like people here in my job, and I before I was like very cautious to say things in my previous job in Brazil. But when I move here and I start to change, and I think the age, help us too. So they know me like completely. I'm a very transparent person, and when I don't like or don't want or think that something needs to be different, but also when I talk to them and I said, look, we are not perfect, so we need to know that we cannot be 100% every single thing. You are not like 100% uh, best wife or 100% best worker. Don't think that you need to be 100% everything, because nobody can. There is no up and downs. You can be like a very good in one area, but don't think that you can be in every single area in your life. We need to work on every day to reach like a good like a percentage, but don't like putting yourself like I need to be 100%. And when I talk to that, because I said we are here as a team and we are here to help each other. So I have expectation from them, but I know that it's not like 100% every time, because you have like up and downs. We are human, right? So this is that I want to say that we need to do our best, try to find our better version. This is that we try every day. But if one day you're not reach that, if you one day you give like a chicken nuggets to your daughter and do not cook, don't feel like bad like me. And I said, oh, I didn't cook like well. No, pizza, chicken nuggets one day. This is not every day, right? So don't put yourself in a way that you do know you are like that. Even my husband, he said sometimes like, hey, we'll eat pizza. I am tired to cook. So just need to know, think about human. We can fail and you can conquer many days. So and this one that I don't know one want to say to share with you, and live more, worry less, try to worry less.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I did just drop Raquel's guide link in the chat so you can see her profile if you really resonated with her and feel like having a conversation with her would be beneficial to you. Her link is right there. It's free. And the version of Raquel that you see here, I promise you, is the version that you're going to get on the other side of the screen. Like, she is very authentic and she'll help you. And that's the thing is our guides have gone through lived experience and they're just helping you get to where you want to go because they've already been there first. And I like to call them our little time machines because You don't have to make all the mistakes and go through it all alone. You have someone who's already done it. So, with all of that being said, our Being Human First episode 2 is coming to an end right now. We have our live mentoring session next week with me and Raquel, where it's actually going to be meeting style. So, people will be able to unmute themselves, will be able to talk, have more of a dialogue. We'll also have a worksheet that will help you set your goals that you can use alone. Ideally, you'll be using it with a guide to help you reach your goals in your self care, in your Being Human First journey, and just finding what it means to be you outside of the societal expectations of being a machine that we were never made to be. So, thank you all for being here. It is a joy and it is a pleasure. And I hope to see you on Monday on our Motivational Monday. That happens every Monday with me currently as your guide. And then next week for our mentoring session, the links for Everything Life Guides has just been dropped in the chat. Sending you all beautiful energy and a great week ahead. And we will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.